All right, last week I went to like 20 bookstores and bought a whole bunch of books. I started a campaign online to not purchase books from Barnes & Noble and Amazon and instead to support our local bookstores. And in doing my research, I kind of went nuts. So in today's video, I'm going to show you 20 titles I picked up that I'm extremely excited to read. Let's get philosophical. We're going to be looking at everything from classic literature to poetry and psychology and of course philosophy, because philosophy is my favorite thing in the world. Let's get started. This is going to be a ridiculous video. I'm just preparing you now. I'm going to go through each of these books rather quickly because there's a lot. The first book on my list is The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. Right there. So this is the kind of book that is about bringing people together despite their differences and their backgrounds. I haven't read it, of course, I haven't read any of these. So I'm really excited about this. It was recommended to me in the book club that I host online every week. If you're interested in joining that with us, you can go to thereadwellpodcast.com. Click on community up in the top navigation. And once you're in the community, you can have access to all of the fun that we're having. All right, that's book number one. Book number two is Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. Now I've already got this up on my bookshelf, but I wanted a separate copy of it that was just this work. So the Nietzsche that I have is a combination of all of his ideas put together. And I wanted just this one, Beyond Good and Evil, because it's a really strong, focused works that I want to get into of his. And so I wanted a space dedicated where I could write all over it and just take notes. And it's a cheaper copy, so I don't feel bad if I write all over it. So excited for that. I saw this on the shelves and I had to buy it. Look how beautiful this is. So this is Robert Frost. He was an American poet who wrote about nature. And I like tuning into his work whenever I need a digital detox. He has a way of sort of getting rid of the city and getting rid of the computers and just bringing me back to a peaceful, calmer state. So great poetry, and it's beautiful. It's got like gold leafing on the sides, and the print is just nice and large and easy. So I'm really happy about this find. Number four is The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. He was a French philosopher, and this book is all about confronting the absurdity of life head on. So you may or may not align with Camus' philosophies, but if you are interested in branching out, he challenges us to find value in meaning despite our struggles, despite the inherent challenge that comes with being a human. He really wants you to accept those hardships and really try to find meaning in them. So The Myth of Sisyphus, it's a short read. And again, I like these sort of more affordable copies because I don't mind writing all over them. So Albert Camus, The Myth of Sisyphus. Speaking of beautiful books, Robert Greene has The 48 Laws of Power. Now, he just recently released his 25th anniversary edition. And this is it. It's just gorgeous. It's like, well, let me show you how this works. So it's got the gold leafing on the sides. I will not be writing in this one. This is my show copy. The text is just so beautifully printed and laid out very well. But here's the fun part. When you flip through the pages, if you flip one way, you see a portrait of Robert Greene, the author. If you flip the other way, you see a portrait of Machiavelli, who was his influence for writing this book. I will just show you what I mean. So if you see these pictures, I don't know if you can see this, but if I flip through them, you should be able to see a picture of Robert Greene right in the text. Now, if I go the other way, it's like a magic trick, right? You go this way and you can see Machiavelli right there. I don't know if you can see that. If you can't, you got to get your copy of this just so that you can play with this book. It is fantastic. Number 6 is 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. I have heard so much about this book, but I haven't really had a chance to sit down with it. Here's what I like about this. As I started to think through what it is, it's all about the finite nature of life and how we choose to spend our time. So it takes a more philosophical look into things like productivity, mortality, and finding balance in just this modern, hectic world. I like books that aren't just life hacks and how-tos, but instead bring in that philosophical element. So I'm really excited for this one. It looks like a pretty easy read. These kinds of books are the ones that you get a couple nuggets out of and they just change the way you live your life. So I'll let you know how that one goes. Number 7 is Draft Number 4 by John McPhee. Now you can skip this one if you're not a writer, but if you're interested in creative work and you want to write on a daily basis, this one should be really good. So John McPhee is, he's a writing teacher and he's just written so many great things. But he actually taught a class on writing, and the author Tim Ferriss attended that class and attributed John McPhee to all of his writing success. Essentially said it was just a life-changing experience. So Tim Ferriss references this book, Draft Number 4, quite a lot, and I thought Tim Ferriss has sold many best-selling books. He's a good writer. Let's see what this has to offer. So I'm not aspiring to write a book at all, but I do write on my blog every day, and I want to improve my writing quality. That's why I'm picking up that book. Okay, on to stack number 2. This is Water by David Foster Wallace. Now, I have never read Wallace. I'm ashamed to say that until last week. I actually came across a 24-page article about sailing on a cruise ship. I couldn't put it down. It is so stinking good. His way of describing detail and environment and sort of getting his point across is just, it's engaging. He is definitely a skeptical person. He tends to have a negative view on things, especially sort of modern society and the way things are going, but I like how he has that philosophical approach as well. So I've started with This is Water. Now, this is just, it almost looks like a book of just small aphorisms. Like if you look at it, there's just small little passages here, and on the back it says, there are these 2 young fish swimming along and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" So I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of this, but I'm looking forward to it. I have one other David Foster Wallace book on this list. We'll get to that next. One of my best friends recommended this next book to me in my book club. He comes every week. It is Carl Sagan's The Demon-Haunted World. Now, this book advocates for a scientific approach to skepticism. So he's calling upon us to use reason and evidence as tools to understand the world. The whole point here is to combat our superstition and really analyze the things we hold to be true or not. How do you know something's true? I think a lot of the time we just go with the herd. We believe what we're told from our parents, from our church, from our government. And Carl Sagan is saying, maybe there's a better way to go about your belief system. Okay, halfway there. This is book number 10. This is Darwin's The Voyage of the Beagle. This is a book I've wanted to read for so long. It just feels like I'm going on an adventure with Dr. Dolittle, but a real Dr. Dolittle. If you don't know much about this is Darwin's account of his experience getting on the HMS Beagle and then taking his trip through the oceans to land on the islands and begin to study evolution and create his theory. So it's definitely a book that is going to be looking at sort of his philosophical as well as his scientific view about the diversity of life and why we need to be thinking about how all living things are connected together. So this will be fun. I'm really excited for it. The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. This book is getting gobs of attention right now. I honestly don't know a whole lot about Rick Rubin yet. I just bought it because everybody's talking about it. I know, super trendy, but it's done. It was done so well. Like, it's beautiful to hold in the hand. Rick has been touted as the person who has brought so many musical acts to the stage and to your radio, but he knows nothing about the music business. He's just really good at sort of extrapolating creativity from people and helping them showcase it. So I could use some of that. And if this book helps me get more creative, I am all for that. Okay, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. Yep, that's what it's titled. Again, another recommendation from my book club online this week. This was given to me by a member, and I am really interested in this one. So Oliver's collection of neurological case studies is in here. This is sort of a deep dive into the complexity of the human mind. And he's challenging our understanding of identity, what we consider to be consciousness, and what it really means to be human. So I'm really, really excited for that. I'm really excited for all of these books. I keep saying that. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I love essays. Essays to me are some of the most rewarding reading experiences possible. And I've picked up essays of E.B. White. Now, his essays are a combination of humor and wisdom and observation. He's really trying to invite us to think about the nature of life. So He considers the passage of time and just simple joys and sorrows that define the human condition. And the way he writes is very approachable. It's not at all complex. He's got that kind of voice that, if you were to sit down with your grandpa and just sit on the porch and talk about the beauty of the world, that would be E.B. White. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Book number 14 is Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. This explores themes of race and beauty and identity, really providing a lens through which we can examine our societal norms and the impact that these constructs have on people's lives. I've never read Toni Morrison's work. I've read small snippets of things many, many times, but I've never had the blessing of reading a full novel. I believe this is her first novel. I should know that. But I'm really looking forward to this. I love, again, books that show me a different worldview than I have. This is going to be very educational. Book number 15 of 20, we are getting there. This is Tom Wolfe's The Right Stuff. Now, Tom Wolfe is this interesting writer. He seems to break a lot of writing rules. And so when you're reading him, his sentences just are different. That's all I can say. But I've never read this book, and this is an examination of courage and the determination of astronauts. I mean, if you think about what it would take to get into a rocket ship, strap yourself in and blow yourself into outer space, the amount of fear you would feel and the experience that would create in your life, that's what this is. It's going to be really, really fantastic. Now, he was a journalist as well. I love reading books by journalists because not only are they telling a good narrative, but they usually have some well-researched ideas in their writing, and I always appreciate that. On to stack number 3. Okay, here we go. So Between Two Kingdoms, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. I apologize, but it's Sulika Jaoud, Jaouad, I believe. And so this is sort of her journey through illness and recovery. She ended up getting cancer, and so it's really trying to get us to think about what it means to be resilient and to, my goodness, just not give up. This book is about finding your meaning, which is an existentialist idea, right? So when you experience pain, how are you going to apply meaning to that? Are you going to give up, or are you going to find beauty in it? Tides of War is number 17 on the list. This is a historical novel by Stephen Pressfield. You probably know him from his book, The War of Art, where he taught us about resistance as creative people. Not as many people know that he also writes fictional work. And Tides of War, when he was asked what his favorite book is that he wrote, he recommended this one. This is a novel about the Peloponnesian War, which is the war between Athens and Sparta several thousand years ago. It's just a fantastic setting for a book. This gets a lot of weight put behind it, and I don't like to read a whole lot of war books. I read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and that just filled me with enough war for a long time. But I love Athens and I love Sparta because these are two very different groups of people, right? Sparta was an oligarchy, so they were very military focused. They were strong, and only the best of the best sort of got to be the political leaders, and everybody else was either military or slave, and you just served the kingdom in Sparta. In Athens, it was different. They were a democratic government, and so they had a much larger group of the population making the rules and trying to build a better life for people. Now, at that point in time, that group of people, those were all men, and everybody else was either slaves or women or kids or what have you. Totally get it. Not a good representation, but back then, at least they were trying to get the power into people's hands. So this is an interesting book because I'm curious to see how he characterizes this and draws me in. He's a great writer. Ooh, I feel like I'm running a marathon talking about all of these books. All right, book number 18 is The One-Dimensional Man by Herbert Marcuse. This is a philosophical book, and it argues that consumer culture creates an environment where individuals are increasingly conforming to this one-dimensional thought and behavior. He's really pointing out that we're so wrapped up in having the new iPhone. This is old, by the way. He wasn't alive when he wrote this. The iPhone wasn't here, but we're so wrapped up in having the newest and coolest that we're losing our souls and our character and our behavior. We're becoming one-dimensional, and he's giving us a warning about that. So I haven't read it, looking forward to it. 2 more to go. All right, this is another Oliver Sacks book called Awakenings. This is probably his biggest, most well-known novel. I have not read it. Looking forward to this. This is he documents in this the experiences of a post-encephalitic patient thing where they're given this drug called L-Dopa in the late 60s and awakening them from just this decade-long catatonia. So the book here is not just a medical case study, but it's also a philosophical look into what it means to be alive and to be human. Number 20 is the big bad David Foster Wallace book, Infinite Jest. So this thing's massive. I see it every time I go to bookstores. I've always wanted to read it. I've always been intimidated by it. I read plenty of books over 1,000 pages, but David Foster Wallace is just a different kind of writer where he is so in the weeds of his thinking. The guy was a genius. Again, I haven't read him other than this article, but after having read the 24-page article on the cruise ship, reading 1,000 pages of his work is either going to wear me out completely or just light me on fire. So in this book, we're looking at themes of addiction, entertainment, and really the search for meaning. It's this critique on North American culture. And what he did is he set it in this sort of alternate near future where the novel takes place with the residents at a tennis academy who are next to this sort of substance abuse recovery clinic thing. So it is about American life, about addiction, and about what it means to just find meaning in all of this stuff. He was always concerned with meaning. All right, we did it. Those are the 20 books. Hey, if you found this video helpful and you are interested in books like this and you want more book recommendations over time, go ahead and go to thereadwellpodcast.com. Again, I have a newsletter there. I issue that once a week. I always give a single book recommendation as well as a short snippet about reading motivation or habits, because sometimes you just don't feel like reading. Sometimes you're tired or you're stressed, but you want to be a better reader. My goal is to help you reconnect with that passion, pick up the book, and enjoy it. So go to thereadwellpodcast.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and I appreciate the support. All right, thanks for watching. And as always, remember to read slowly, take notes, and apply the ideas. I'll see you next time.